This episode of Dorking Out is brought to you by Freedom Snack Box. Get snacks delivered right to your home or office. We include the snacks that everyone wants, like salt and vinegar chips and chocolate-covered almonds, and we include the snacks no one wants, like fruit. But with Freedom Snack Box, our fruit arrives already spoiled, so you could just throw it right out in your compost bin. Say goodbye to the guilt you usually feel when you didn't eat the fruit, and say hello to the taste of salty, fatty freedom. Freedom Snack Box. You have the right to snack freely.
And
ESPN 8, The Ocho, bringing you the finest in seldom-seen sports from around the globe since 1999. If it's almost a sport, we've got it here. ESPN 8, The Ocho.
Houston, flight is go.
Mila, let's go. SPM. Safety contact.
from Assignment X, Amalgamated Storytelling, and thesoniashow.com, it's Dorking Out with Sonia Mansfield and Christopher Allen Smith.
Welcome to episode 55 of Dorking Out, a podcast for people who like to dork out about stories and the stories and culture that we love. That means movies and TV, books and podcasts, and everywhere else we can find stories that interest us. This is the Spider-Man versus Glow edition. With me today is my professional writer and author co-host of the Sonia Mansfield Show. This sentence has been horribly butchered. I'm sorry, Sonia Mansfield.
Hey there.
Hey!
With me today is my co-host, Emmy Award-winning filmmaker and nerd author, Christopher Allen Smith.
There are no take twos on this show.
No,
Sorry.
and my voice is still not back, everybody. Yay! In this week's episode, friend of the show, Ben Weddell, host of Big Ben's Movie Show, is going to join Chris for a review of Spider-Man Homecoming. Why am I not reviewing it too? Because I actually decided to wait and see it on opening day.
What a jerk.
I'm not as impatient as my co-host who just had to see it early and review it right away. Or maybe I have a life and I can't stop everything to see yet another Spider-Man movie. Or maybe, just maybe, it was a scheduling thing.
I love how angry you are at Spider-Man.
Another Spider-Man movie. Come on.
You're not wrong.
This is the fifth Spider-Man movie.
No, I'm sorry, Sonia. This is the sixth Spider-Man movie.
Oh my God, you're right. I'm sorry.
If you want to count Captain America Civil War, this is the seventh movie Spider-Man has been in.
No, I wouldn't count that. But anyway, right. In our second segment, I will participate. And we're going to step in the ring and talk about Netflix new series Glow, about the gorgeous ladies of wrestling. And finally, we end our show with what we're dorking out about this week, including our movie swap, where I pick a movie and he picks a movie, and we each had to watch it.
I got screwed! Sorry.
I really don't think you did, but we'll talk about that. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's get started.
Well, a few weeks have passed, so that means a new movie in the octopus-like Marvel Cinematic Universe has been released. But this one is a bit different. Spider-Man Homecoming came out Friday, starring Tom Holland as Peter Parker and Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, the requisite thread binding the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe together for almost 10 years now. Anyway, big deal, you might say. After all, Marvel is churning these movies out one every 4 months. Who cares, you might say. This is the seventh major motion picture with Spider-Man since Sam Raimi's original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in 2002. How much more Spider-Man do we need? But this is the first time Spider-Man has had a whole movie to himself in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and only the second time the MCU and Uber producer Kevin Feige have worked with a rival studio, in this case, Sony, that holds the rights to Spider-Man, to produce a movie in the MCU. Was the wait and all the fanboy hype over the last 2.5 years since this was announced, is it worth it? Joining me today to talk about Spider-Man Homecoming is friend of the show, Ben Weddell, host of Big Ben's Movie Show, and one of the biggest Marvel zombies I know. Now, we are recording this on Thursday night because I am going on vacation. So, Ben, you and I walked out of this movie mere moments ago. What do you think of Spider-Man Homecoming?
Holy crap, I love that movie. It's bursting out of me how much I love that movie. Just right from the opening minutes when they do a great job kind of catching you up in the world and everything. And the pacing, the humor, all of it. This whole movie, it's everything that I've been waiting for from a Spider-Man movie, but didn't know that I wanted. And more specifically, what it is that it's Spider-Man in the MCU. You know, we've had Spider-Man movies before, but because they weren't part of that the MCU, they didn't have that same feel to them. And if you like the MCU, if you like how they're all, you know, they all are kind of funny. You know, they're all having good action. They do a lot of great teasing, lots of Easter eggs, lots of that stuff. And this movie had tons of that. And it just, from start to finish, I was just gripping my seat rests because I was so excited and happy with almost everything I was seeing and hearing. It was so good. The acting from everybody is good. Donald Glover is amazing, and he drops a nice little nugget in there. Michael Keaton is wonderful as the villain.
Yes, one of Marvel's few really good villains.
Yeah.
I was actually I think that is one of the standouts of this movie is that it's a real, meaningful, three-dimensional villain that isn't just I'm gonna return everything to darkness or whatever.
Yeah,
like every Thor movie and most of the Avengers movies,
which is amazing because they're taking a Spider-Man villain who isn't that special.
Yeah,
the Vulture, but they're kind of. And I'll tell you this: he's kind of become their Green Goblin. I think that's how they're using him. They're a lot of the things that made the Green Goblin scary are showing up in this version of the Vulture.
Right.
And it's great. I'm loving it.
You know, I want to throw a theory by you. I really did like this movie. It's I have got to read the book, the Skywalking level book on the Marvel MCU. Somebody's got to write that book because I've got to know what's going on with the producers, with Kevin Feige and the whole team over there. Because this movie has 6 screenwriters.
Yeah.
And usually a movie with 6 screenwriters, 2 story by credits, they're train wrecks.
Yeah.
This is very tight, very quick, very light, very fun. One of the
screenwriters is the kid from Freaks and Geeks too.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is Kevin Feige has kind of, I think one of the ways that Marvel keeps churning out movies that are so enjoyable, and this one's got like over 90 on Rotten Tomatoes, is they're taking superhero movies and combining them with other movies. This one is, Captain America Winter Soldier was supposedly like a 70s era political thriller combined with a superhero movie. Yeah. This is famously been described as a John Hughes movie combined with a superhero movie. So
exactly.
They do all eventually end up with the hero and the villain punching at each other, but there's enough new stuff in each entry and enough lightness and quickness that they're still enjoyable. I mean, this is the 16th Marvel movie since Iron Man in 2008, and it's a lot of fun. It's really has a lot of young, naive moments from Tom Holland as Peter Parker, and it's. But let me ask you this though. I was watching the credits, waiting for the trademarked Marvel stinger at the very end.
Yeah.
And I was asking my son Dell, what'd you think? Oh, this is great. I loved it. How would you rank it in the Marvel movies? Oh, it's one of the better Marvel movies. I really, really liked it. Oh, how does it compare with The Dark Knight? Not even close. He was saying Marvel movies. Well, hold on for a second. Marvel movies. Let me finish my ramble. Marvel movies are all really either good. They're either enjoyable, good, or really good. But for me, they kind of top out at, hey, this is a fun ride. They never hit that next top level of great cinema, which is it's about more than just the sum of its characters' problems. You know, it never reaches like a metaphorical level or a societal commentary level. Like I think a lot of the greatest, Godfather is a gangster movie, but it's also about life in America and what it means to, protect yourselves and protect the ones you love from the enemies around you, and The Dark Knight is about, Batman and the Joker, but it's really about the whole post-September 11th world and what it's like to fight terrorism in a way that doesn't just make the problem worse. This is...
And the nature of humanity and whether or not we're all...
Exactly.
Like that's Joker's big thing, is that everybody's one bad day away from being him.
Yes.
And he tries to prove it with the people on the boat. And there's some powerful imagery there that Marvel hasn't really... I mean, the closest would be Civil War, but they really haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, and I really see that I love Civil War, and Civil War might be my favorite Marvel movie of all, but mainly it's because it's a particularly good chapter in the Marvel soap opera. This is where the two best friends go at each other and really fight and have a big breakup, and it's spectacular. But I am starting to really feel the guardrails that the producers, and I'm not going to put this at Disney's put this at Disney's feet, because this was happening long before Disney bought Marvel. We're not seeing any important characters get killed. We're not seeing any, the evolution of the different characters in this universe seems to be up until the point where they understand that they're a hero. And then once they're a hero, they just fight bad guys, but there's no next level of storytelling. There's no passage of time. There's no,
there's definitely no passage of time, because it's a comic book, and that's kind of how they work.
It is, but that's the thing, is I think all the most of the great comic book stories are the ones like The Dark Knight Returns, where they acknowledge the passage of time and acknowledge the ending of a hero's career. Even though that particular example,
like Old Man Logan,
Old Man Logan, or Superman, not Superman for all seasons, but The Man of Tomorrow, I guess is what it is. And I'm kind of yearning for that, which is interesting, because maybe I'm wondering if that's what it's going to take, especially with Logan earlier this year, which is examining the end of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine and the X-Men movies that they're making over there.
It's funny you brought that up. I got home just a second ago, and my wife asked me about the movie, and I said, "Oh, it was great. It was so good. It was so good." And she was like, "Oh, was it the best superhero movie of the year?" She's not even asking ever. She's just saying of the year.
Right.
And I wanted to immediately say yes, but then I remembered, oh wait, Logan happened. Oh, Logan was so good. I wasn't sure. I didn't know if I could pull the trigger on saying it was better than Logan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is the thing, and that is kind of the spoiled area where we're at now, where we get to wonder, oh, wow, is it better than the really fun superhero movie I saw 2 months ago? Or is it better than the really good superhero movie I saw 4 months ago? So for a certain kind of moviegoer and a certain kind of story lover, we're living in a very good age, but if you're not into superhero movies or comic book movies, it's troublesome. But
plus, I also think there's a level of nostalgia that you and I probably have that this next generation of kids won't have.
How so?
Like for them, they'll be like growing up on superhero movies, and then when superhero VR comes out, their kids will go nuts about it and they'll be like, oh, and it makes me so nostalgic for the Iron Man movies I watched as a kid.
Yeah.
And, and the fact that like I grew up on actual comic books that I'm now seeing, and it's because in my head, like at the end of the movie, I was like, wow, so cool that I can live in a time when, and I was like, God, am I tired of saying that yet? Like, it's, like you said, what is it, 15, 16 movies in? Yeah, right. We get it. They're all over the place. There's superheroes everywhere. Yeah, it's, and it was the ending is when I was thinking about that, when I was, the whole stuff towards the end. Yeah, it's just so friggin' cool.
Well, let me ask you this then, because it's interesting is that these are the kinds of movies that I enjoyed most during the summer when I was a kid, but usually you would get one or two passable big summer blockbuster adventure movies, and sometimes you'd go a summer where a couple of them came out and they all sucked, and you'd be like, all right, well, there's that. Like, exactly. I think most of the 90s had a lot of promised great movies that almost all of them ended up being disappointing. But now we're kind of, there's a lot of chatter going around this summer where Pirates of the Caribbean is crashing, The Mummy is crashing, Transformers is crashing. There are a lot of these big movies, people are really starting to, it almost seems like the warnings that movie critics have been given for the last couple of years about this market's going to crash.
But then Wonder Woman.
Well, then Wonder Woman.
Then Wonder Woman, because you're looking at DC, who up until now has been making money but not winning any. They've been winning battles but not the war. Right. And then they come along with Wonder Woman, and we're reminded that it's not just the scope. You can't just have a big scope. You also have to have a big story.
Right.
And without that, it just doesn't work. It's not the same. And and that's why. Looking at the way DC's done it, they're looking at Marvel and trying to follow them, and that's working.
Right.
It's all these other companies that they're like, oh, what if we did it kind of like them? It's not going to work. You need to do it exactly like them. It needs to be almost carbon copy to what they've done.
Right.
Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Well, and that's another thing that there are more than a few think pieces starting to go around now, which I think are really funny, which is Hollywood has a bad movie problem. The things that separate The Mummy...
Hollywood has a too many movies problem. That's the problem.
It has a too many movies problem, but it also has a bad movies problem, and that's one of the consistent strings with these, it is the through line with these disappointing box office returns for these big franchise movies is they're not good movies. We're kind of coming to the point where there's so much good TV on now, so many enjoyable video games, so many other good modes of getting good stories told that if you're not firing on all cylinders and your movie isn't either good or really good, it's not going to have a great time at the box office. So which circles me back around to this.
I mean, it is and it isn't, though. Like we want to poop on Pirates of the Caribbean, although I got to say I thought that was I thought this year's one was way better than 4.
Well,
to me it was probably the third best Pirates. But these movies aren't losing money. Like, they're losing money in America, but they're making a ton of money overseas. So while we're like, oh, Hollywood, you're screwing up and making bad movies, they're like, while they count their money.
Right.
Like, they don't care. They don't care that we're all pissed.
I think they're going to be caring. I think with the lower box office run, and we're a little bit off on a tangent here, with the lower box office run in the United States, that is going, it was a lower box office run in the United States for Batman versus Superman that got Warner's to freak out and retool their thing.
Yeah.
But bringing us back to Spider-Man, what do you have any other thoughts for this particular? What was your favorite thing about this? What was your favorite moment? Why did you like this so much, do you think?
So there's a moment towards the end that is a quintessential Spider-Man moment. And as I'm watching it, I looked at it and thought, wow, this is what's missing from a lot of other things. Honestly, this was a scene missing from Wonder Woman, and it's part of why I've never been able to, like, I liked the Wonder Woman movie, but part of the reason that I've never really latched onto the Wonder Woman character is I can't think of her moment like this. There's a part in the movie where Spider-Man has to push past a huge obstacle. And it's a part of every Spider-Man comic book. It almost always happens. You almost always have a scene, a panel, where there's wreckage and there's just, like, his mask is torn and his costume is torn and his arm is hanging limply. And then he has to get up and push out of that and soldier on. And he does it. And it's amazing. And you can feel the sheer determination of spirit as he does it. That was probably, it's as much as I laughed at the rest of it, as much as I was scared by Michael Keaton, I was all this other stuff that I loved. That was the part that really reminded me I was in a Spider-Man movie,
right?
And I loved it. It was Marvel shook off all the silliness and all the fun that I totally enjoyed, but then reminded us all, no, this is a story about a 15-year-old kid who's fighting a grown man. And might die, and that's always been the beauty of Spider-Man is he's the character. Like, if you go look at all the Marvel comics, Spider-Man gets his ass whooped more than anybody, and the character is the better for it.
Right.
In the same way that DC's Batman gets his ass whooped a lot. It's the fact that he is a mortal man who can be broken is part of what makes the character so great. So I really loved that. I also feel like as I was watching it at the end, I thought to myself, I just want to watch this world. I just want to just leave this on, leave the window into the MCU on, and I'll just watch it. Right. Because I will watch anything coming from this.
Yeah.
The introduction of damage control and things like that, which they had talked about that being a TV show, but I'm happy that it's just showing up in the movies. That was really cool. There was also an amazing attention to detail, and I want to attribute this to Disney because Disney does this so well. Kenneth Choi is in this movie.
Oh, that's right. I think.
And at first I thought, how stupid of them! I can't believe they're already falling down on the job. They've put someone who was already in a Marvel movie in another Marvel movie, and he's gonna have to play a different character. Oh no, they've screwed the pooch.
And that's Kenneth Choi in this movie plays the principal of Peter Parker's
Plays the principal, which doesn't spoil anything at all. Right. He was one of the Howling Commandos in Captain America 1. And I thought, oh man, they've really messed up. And then about 3/4 of the way through the movie, he's in the principal's office, and there on his desk is the picture of himself in World War II. It's his grandfather.
Right, exactly.
And you're like, holy crap. And I'm like 0.1% of people who were even bothered by it, and they took the time to make me happy anyway. Right. Yeah. Amazing. No, amazing.
It's some fantastic stuff. It's one of the last things I want to talk about. I kind of jokingly, what we used to do, or what we try to do on Dorking Out is, when the Star Wars movie of the year comes out, we will have a annual State of the Star Wars or whatever discussion. Mm-hmm. And we used to do that with Marvel.
But now there's 3 of them.
The problem is there's 3 movies a year. And it's just like, what is the state of the Marvel Universe? Well, I don't know. Let's refer back 8 episodes to when we
talked about Guardians.
Talked about Guardians. Anyway, but what I'm saying is
we're what, 3 months away from? No, we're
4 months. We're 4 months away from
4 months away from Thor.
From Thor, which
itself, also looks amazing.
Which itself is 4 months away from Black Panther, which is 4 months away from Infinity
Avengers.
Wars. Avengers Infinity Wars. But that is what that is my discussion is.
Isn't that so good? Doesn't that feel so good to know that?
It does. Well, here's the thing. We were talking about endings, and we were talking about my frustration, at least, with the static state of the Marvel Universe, which is nothing really seems to happen or evolve or change.
I think some of that's about to change.
Well, exactly, because Kevin Feige has said the second Avengers movie that's up on the horizon, the untitled Avengers movie, which will be movie 22, is quote unquote going to bring an end to to this Marvel story. Some of the news outlets have referred to it as bring an end to this Marvel universe, and then they'll start kind of restart or something. But it looks like we are, and there's room, Robert Downey Jr. has discussed several times in recent months about leaving. Chris Evans has talked several times about leaving.
And there's room story-wise for both of them to leave. Now, honestly, there's room for the big 3 or 4, depending on how you think of it. The people who have had individual movies in the Marvel Universe, there's room for all of them to leave.
Right.
They've got a new roster of Avengers coming up behind them. And then also, just story-wise, there's been at least 4 different people that have called themselves Captain America. Right. 2 of whom are already existing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right.
So you're ready to go there. There is another person that's been Iron Man. He's already there, but if you want to recast Tony Stark, you could do that too. They've already written in, there's been what I'm thinking, I can think of at least 2 other humans who have both been Thor when Thor's had to leave. So that's easy to fix. And then, you can always recast the Hulk and just have him be Digital Hulk for a whole movie. Right. Which, honestly, we would all love. Right. Yeah. So I think as much as I'm totally ready for the change. And whenever they're ready to make it happen, I think the audience is ready and willing. At this point, the Marvel name means more than any of the actors attached or even any of the characters attached at this point.
Right. So what we're looking at here then is, it could be, and maybe I'm feeling a little sad. Maybe for all the complaining I was just doing about the static state, I am a little nervous about them ending the Marvel this iteration of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Well, I think we've already seen endings of parts of it. Like we've had 3 Captain America movies, 3 Iron Man movies.
Yeah, that's true.
We're about to have the 3rd Thor movie. Right. That'll be the end of those trilogies.
Right.
I don't think we'll see another strictly Thor movie for a while.
Yeah.
Same with those 2.
And now this is kind of a nerdy comic booky discussion to have, because right now the untitled 4th Avengers movie comes out in May, basically 22 months from now. Mm-hmm. There is an untitled Spider-Man sequel with Tom Holland that's going to be coming out in July 2020, basically 2 years from now. So theoretically, we would be getting, and then there's a Guardians of the Galaxy movie that's going to be coming out. So there are going to be continued threads, but it could be like essentially rebooting a universe in comics, which is they still have characters, they still have names that but they're kind of different versions. It's almost like the Big Bang goes to the Big Crunch. And then the Big Bangs again and starts another universe with the same thing. It looks like that's what they might be doing here. There could be some actors that are held over, but the continuity and the whatever is restarts in July.
And they can absolutely do that, yeah. So the cool thing about the Infinity Gauntlet storyline is that it's good for doing a lot of that.
Right.
When you have one villain that wields unlimited cosmic power, they can kill anybody off, bring anybody back, anything like that. And Marvel usually likes to do something like that about once a year in the comic book world. So, and in that time, like Steve Rogers' Captain America has died, then came back, then got turned into an old man, then got turned back into a young man, then became evil, and that's his current run, and then he'll finish that and turn back into, it's that you can do that. You can, bring them back and change them however you want. And in the changes, you can recast and you can.
Yeah, I hope we'll see. I hope that they don't go down that road. I think that would be very frustrating to see some of the bad habits of comic book.
The hard thing about it is that, and Kevin Smith talks about this. Comic books never really get to have an ending.
Right.
You get to write a beginning. That's your book 1, and then for the rest of the whole run, you're writing the middle.
Right.
And you can have peaks and valleys with the middle, but it's still the middle.
Right.
So yeah, that's that hard thing of it's hard not being able to come to an ending, but at the same time, as a comic book fan for my entire life, I'm down. Right. If these characters never die, if they keep changing and evolving and going into, if at one point we get, I think in Ultimate Marvel they had a young Tony Stark for a while. Mm-hmm. I'd be fine with that. That'd be cool.
Right.
If Jim Rhodes takes over Iron Man, that'd be cool. If we get the Lady Thor thing happening, that'd be cool. I'm down for all that.
All right. Well, anything else that you would like to say about this movie?
Just that it was great. One thing. I did not expect any surprises from this movie. With all the stuff that we know about in advance and all the things that we hear about and the trailers and everything, like there was a lot of this movie that I had pegged right from the get-go. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of people worried there would be too much Iron Man in it. And I was like, no, because I think this is going to happen. It's exactly what happens. So I pretty much had a good read going in. I still was shocked at a point in this movie.
I agree, and we're not even going to come close to talking about it because nope. I in recent years have been doing my best to stay away from spoilery type stuff, and I just want to.
I'm not going to say what it was, but something happened, and the audience gasped.
Yes,
and none of us saw it coming.
Yes, and I'm even at the point where I'm going to stop. I think I'm going to start not watching trailers because I just want to go in virgin fresh. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I think maybe the first trailer, and then that's it.
Maybe.
And definitely don't watch any trailer examinations.
Yes.
Don't watch, like these are all the Easter eggs that you missed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which so many great Easter eggs in this. Ugh.
Yes. So, last question, the question that Sonia hates, which is one of the reasons, in addition to scheduling, she is not in the segment, mainly scheduling. But 1 out of 10, what would you give this movie? Or 0 out of 10? 0 out of 10.
Can we do halves? Can we do 0.5s?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I always do 0.5s.
I'll do 8.5.
8.5. That's a high score, my friend.
Walking out of the theater, I wanted to give it like a 9.
Oh.
And then when I thought about it later, I was like, well, hold on. Let's be reasonable. Let's think about this. What are you going to think when you watch it the second time, the third time, the fourth time?
Exactly. Yeah. If you give this a 9, what are you going to give The Dark Knight? A 12?
Dark Knight's.
Hey, you know what? We don't need to get into it.
Perfect for me. Anyway.
Say that. Now that I've interrupted you and tried to shout you down, what was it you were saying?
There's parts of Dark Knight that I don't love. I think there is a 10 movie in there, but I think they should probably trim some stuff out.
And by trimming stuff out, he means the credits, because everything else is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, there's parts of it. Anytime Heath Ledger's on the screen, everything's great.
All right. I am going to give this a 7.75.
Wow.
Now I'm down to the quarter point.
That's actually, I didn't think you were going to go lower than 8. I really didn't.
Well, it might be 8. That's the thing, is my criteria for 8s and 9s or something is you usually have to watch it again and let it soak in a little bit and see how you like it. The first time I watched The Dark Knight, and the reason I keep talking about that is, for me, that's the gold standard of these movies in the modern era. Is it's like, oh wow, I really like that, and then you watch it again, it's like, wow, I really, really like that, and then you don't get to a 9 or a 10 without having seen it a couple times, thought about it, gone back and looked at it, shaking it up, kicked the tires. So, all right.
Where's Rises for you, by the way?
It's good. It's good. Dark Knight's a 10. Rises is like a 7 or 8. 7. There are parts of it I really, really like. I love Tom Hardy in that. I love his Bane like crazy, but I thought there was a lot of misshapen. That movie did a lot of things that I really don't like. Yep. Which is have the hero not be the hero for most of the movie. Like, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna show the trials of Batman by having him so busted up he can't even be Batman. Well, you know what I like in my Batman movies? Batman. So I don't want to see him laying on his back for 2/3 of the movie. Anyway.
I mean, that's the problem with that storyline, though, is they took a storyline where it starts with Batman getting his back broken.
Yes, that's right. Don't use the storyline then. Take the villain, leave the storyline.
Or do it as it was written. Maybe don't add in 2 or 3 other giant storylines.
No, you can't do that. Yeah. No, you can't do that.
Why not?
What was that? That was like a 40-book-long story, wasn't it?
No. That's if you take No Man's Land, which they also tried to do. But no, just take the first part of Nightfall.
Yeah.
Batman gets his back broken. New kid steps up. New kid beats Bane. End of the movie.
All right. Well,
make it a trilogy. Could have been a great trilogy.
Well, we already had a great trilogy. Anyway, and that is our Batman moment wrapped inside our review of Spider-Man Homecoming. With that being said, on to the next topic.
Hey, want more Dorking Out?
Yep.
You can visit our website at dorkingoutshow.com.
You can.
And you can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter.
On Twitter.
Do you listen to us on iTunes?
Yep.
It's cool.
It's cool.
We won't tell anyone.
Nope.
Please, take a few minutes out of your busy day of pretending to work while you watch cat videos to give us a review on iTunes.
Cat videos!
For some reason, iTunes really cares about reviews, and it helps us attract more listeners, and you want us to have more listeners and be popular and cool, don't you?
Yep.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
And now, on with the show.
Yeah.
Topic 2. Since Dorking Out has no binge watching required rule, we have waited long enough to talk about Netflix new series Glow, which is a new show about the gorgeous ladies of wrestling. Apparently, this was a real syndicated show in the late 80s. I didn't watch it. I have never heard of it until I heard of the show. Smith, did you ever watch it?
Nope. Never heard of it.
All right, so I'm not alone in this. This Glow on Netflix is a fictionalized take on the creation of the show, starring Alison Brie from Community, Betty Gilpin, and Mark Maron. It's created by Liz Flavhive, sure, and Carly Mensch, yeah, that sounds right, who worked on Nurse Jackie, Weeds, and Orange is the New Black. And those shows' DNA are kind of like all over the show, especially Orange is the New Black. And I mean that as a compliment. First of all, it's on Netflix. It stars a mostly female cast, and it's loosely based on a true story. And like Orange is the New Black, it uses prison, which Orange is the New Black uses prison, as its jumping off point. Glow uses wrestling to tell like what I think are funny, interesting, or touching stories about women from a variety of backgrounds. In Glow, Alison Brie's character is an aspiring actress who thinks she's kind of above fake wrestling, kind of like Piper in Orange is the New Black when she first gets to prison, but she discovers a lot about herself and learns that she's probably really supposed to be there. I really like this show. I got through it super fast, mainly because I've been sick, but also it's very watchable. I'm excited for season 2. And right now, unlike Orange is the New Black, I kind of don't see myself bailing on this one after 2 seasons. So that's a good plus. Smith, what do you think?
First off, I want to talk a little bit about Orange is the New Black, or ask you a question.
Yes.
My wife, Laura, really liked that show, watched it a lot. She says, oh, you got to watch the show. I think I sat down when season 4 or 5 came out. I think it was the latest season, or the season...
Yeah.
Not the one that came out like a month ago or a couple weeks ago, but the one that came out, I guess, last year. I sat down, watched one episode. It was awful. She thought it was awful. It was just like, it was where that girl from the 70s show and somebody else were trying to hide a body in a greenhouse, I think.
Oh, yeah. I saw that one.
And I was just like, I am not getting it. Now, I knew that I hadn't seen any other stuff, so I didn't want to judge it too harshly, but it's like, I don't have time for this.
I liked Orange is the New Black, like the first couple of seasons. It was very hit or miss for me, but when it hit, I thought it hit really, really well.
Okay.
And then it was getting to a point where, I don't know, I felt like it was missing for me more and more.
Right.
And then it became like work to watch it.
Right.
And then next thing you know, like, there's just so much on that I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time watching something that I don't really want to watch. I'll never say that I won't go back to it.
Yeah.
I might go back to it. It's just right now I'm not on it. I really, really liked Glow, though. Like, I liked
to get back to the point at hand.
Like, I just really liked it. Like, I think it's really funny.
Mm-hmm.
I think like the stories a lot. I like the characters a lot. I think there's a lot of room to grow there and tell a lot of interesting stories. I think I love the 80s setting. I think it's actually kind of like spot on 80s. It's not like jokey, haha, weren't the 80s stupid kind of stuff.
It's almost like a Mad Men take on the 80s, which is weird going to be authentic.
I think 80s. Mark Maron is really great.
I like him a lot.
I was really, I don't know why I was surprised, but I was very surprised. And Alison Brie's one of those people who's kind of always awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see her doing something that, I don't know, a little bit more than just like, I guess like on Annie on Community, or, you know, she was on Mad Men, or, you know, she kind of plays, I don't know. I want to say weak. I don't know if weak's the right word, but
I don't know. She was pretty strong on Mad Men. I know what you're talking about, but I think people forget she was on Mad Men. And she was a pretty powerful, even though she was not on all the time, she was a pretty strong character on that show, you know. But I guess I like know what you're talking about.
Someone who's a little bit better at like standing up for herself, and she is a very obnoxious person, But I don't think she's an annoying person. I think there's a difference.
Yes.
You know? And I really liked her.
That's a difference that I'm trying to split on every single episode of Dorking Out. I liked it, and it's funny that you should talk about Orange is the New Black, and I was actually thinking about another Netflix show, House of Cards, that's one of the things about watching TV in this era is unless you're almost completely in love with the show and stay in love with it, it kind of goes by. And I was thinking about a horrible metaphor when you were talking about Orange is the New Black and your hit or miss love of it, which is trying to pull someone out of a flood, like a raging river. Like you grab onto them and you pull them in, but if you can't grab them, if you can't pull them in quick enough, the water's just you're not strong enough, the water's going to take them by and they're going to be gone and you're never going to see them again.
Way to bring us down, Smith.
Exactly. And for me, several Netflix shows are having that quality, which is I like it. It's cool. I see what other people might like in it. But for me, it's not hitting enough for me. I recently broke up with House of Cards because of this. I probably should have broken up with that like a season or two ago. And I like Glow. I like a lot about it, but it seems pretty slight in terms of, I don't know, the storytelling that I'm looking for, or it's like, I like everything about it, but I don't like it.
That. You know
I don't love it. You know what I mean?
I think slight is a fair assessment, but I think maybe that's kind of one of the things why I'm responding to it.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because I just don't want everything to be The Handmaid's Tale, you know?
Yes.
Like sometimes I just need a good 25 minutes of something entertaining. And I think, you know, when you use the word slight, I don't want it to sound like there's not good stuff in here.
Yeah.
There's really good stuff in here. And like I said, I think they're telling some really interesting stories.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to more of those kinds of stories in the next season. But I also think, I mean, it's not exactly hard hitting. It's
but
not super dramatic. It's not.
And it's not super funny, but it's
not
nice.
A downer either.
Right.
You know, and sometimes those are kind of the perfect shows.
Yeah. No, I hear you. There's a lot to like here. Now that we're talking it through and I'm thinking it through, I think I will give season two, it reminds me kind of about the show starring Gillian Anderson. Do I have that right? The blonde from Community. She's on a show called Loving on Netflix, which is, I think, produced by Judd Apatow.
I think Gillian Anderson is from the X-Files.
Yeah, Gillian Anderson. It's Gillian. I can't remember her last name.
Is it Jacobs?
Yeah, that's what it is. Gillian Jacobs. keeping up with our tradition of not saying anyone's name right on this show.
Ruining everyone's name.
But what I was going to say is that the show Loving is very slight. It's just kind of these two people falling in love. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. It's very slight. It's funny, but it's not, I wouldn't say a quote-unquote comedy. It's like kind of one of these new breeds of comedies where it's funny, but it's not like a punchline factory.
Right.
And Glow is a lot like that, which is funny, and it's got these weird little aspects, and Mark Maron has a lot of great lines, and he's got a really good energy. I watched his show on Maron, and I thought he was a little wooden as an actor, almost kind of like early seasons of Seinfeld's acting, where he was funny and good, but then you could see the seams sometimes.
So he's better playing someone else than himself.
Exactly. Yes.
That's funny.
Perfect. But what the other thing I was going to say,
maybe playing someone else gives you more freedom.
It could be. There's a lot of Mark Maron in this character, but there's enough that. What I was going to say is the show's centered around Alison Brie, but Betty Gilpin.
Yeah,
I was actually she's a kind of a washed up soap actress, or she's one of these actresses that there are a million of them in Hollywood, where they get on a show, they have some success, but because of certain things in life, they kind of get deflected from being an actress, rather than, so they never break through to become like a long working, stable, Hollywood actor. But they've also had a lot more success than almost most actors that are working, or most actors that are wanting to work. So she's kind of got her hand on the very bottom rung of Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And she's this very sympathetic character that's trying to work, trying to start a family. And she's going through a lot of pain in this show. And she's not, Alison Brie's character in this, I think it would be almost like a lovable narcissist. Like, she's really wanting to make it and focus 24 hours, and obnoxious is a great word for it. Obnoxious without being annoying. But I think she did tilt into a little bit of annoying, and every time that happened, Betty Gilpin her storyline would kind of carry us through.
Right.
And I really liked her, and she was kind of dealing with a lot more heavy, kind of wondering, should I do this wrestling? Am I destroying my tiny career by doing this? Or am I already on the down slope in my career? So screw it. I may as well do this. So there's a lot of interesting things going on with her. And I like this show. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, this also reminds me a little bit of Aziz Ansari's. This is almost like a Netflix thing. Aziz Ansari's Master of None, which is these shows on Netflix that they're fun, but they're not earth-shattering. They're nice, but they're not going to change your life. Except for the dog that's apparently attacking.
Yeah, boy, he really likes Glow. He's very upset about what you're saying.
I'm sorry, Toby. Glow is just not that good. Now go sit in the corner and think about what you've done. Now I want the podcasting audience to imagine me yelling at a small, cute dog.
He's very cute.
That's right.
He's sorry.
That's right.
He's sorry, everybody.
That's fine. No, so there are these. I guess I would say pleasantly slight shows is what a lot of these shows have in common, and Glow is one of them. Well, and the thing that's nice about them is
that's a good model for Netflix because it makes it easy to watch them.
I guess you know what, Sonia, is this the 21st century version of just like comfort shows? Are we watching? Is Glow like the Mama's Family?
Glow is much
century.
better than Mama's Family. Come on now.
It is.
Come on.
It is. It's much better than Mama's Family, but it's not as good as the best stuff on TV. Like Master of None is not as the best thing on TV. Loving is not the best thing on TV.
I think a lot of people would disagree with you about Master of None,
actually. I'm completely fine liking Master of None while not starting to build an altar to it.
Right.
So yeah, no, it's good. But what I was gonna say is these quick Netflix shows, they're each 30 minutes, 10 episodes. You know what? Yeah, I got 300 minutes that I could dedicate to a show once every
I don't,
year.
but I will dedicate to this one because I like this one. I don't like wrestling at all. Like, wrestling's not my jam. Like,
Right.
so I was kind of hesitant actually to even watch it, but I'm really glad I did because it's not really about that.
Thank God, because I am not into wrestling too. And I'm wondering if they had taken all these actors, this era, everything, and just told a different story that didn't have anything to do with wrestling, if I might like it more. But then it's kind of like, well, that's the whole show, dummy. Why would they? Why would they do? I like this show, but they should change everything about it.
Yes.
I don't want to be one of those
I actually started
reviewers.
watching, there's a Glow documentary on Netflix about, not about the show, about like the original gorgeous ladies of wrestling. I got about a half hour into it and I didn't get to finish it. It has nothing to say about the quality. It's just, I had to leave. But it's so interesting to me. They were showing all these clips of like the ladies on like Phil Donahue show and Sally Jesse Raphael and like clips from the actual show that was on Saturday mornings. And this completely missed me. I watched a lot of TV in the 80s. I don't know how I didn't know what Glow is or was.
Well, it's not for everybody. There's a million. Yeah. I don't know what to say. How could ladies in leotards jumping on each other on Saturday morning not get on your radar, Sonia?
I don't know. I don't know how it didn't get on your radar.
Why are people even listening to this podcast when you obviously know so little about trivial shows from 30 years ago?
No, I read everything. I watched everything.
I know.
Back then. So how this somehow escaped me, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure I would have watched it anyway. Like, even if I was aware of it, I don't think I would have watched it, but
I am 100% sure.
I don't know how I missed it.
I would not have watched it. So,
but it's ladies in leotards jumping on each other.
You know what? There's several inappropriate jokes that I'm not going to make right now.
Let's just move on to what we're dorking out about. And that brings us to what we're dorking out about this week. If longtime listeners of the show know that Smith and I were doing like a little movie swap where I made an agreement with him that I would watch the Planet of the Apes movies to get ready for war for the Planet of the Apes. Is that the right title? Did I say that right?
It is. And there's a lot of title confusion in the series. So you are to be forgiven for any titling mistakes you have.
And in exchange for that, Smith was going to watch Bring It On.
And Pitch Perfect.
And Pitch Perfect.
Which I have not yet gotten to.
Yes. So this week I watched Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Smith watched Bring It On.
That's right.
Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. You know me. I like to talk. I like to blab.
Yes. What?
The movie was fine. It started Kirsten Dunst, that's what I meant.
Elijah Dushku
and Gabrielle Union.
Yep.
And it's good, but there are moments of it where I can't tell if it's kind of like a parody of a John Hughes movie or if it's just the director is amping everybody's performances up too much, because it almost seems like a Clueless and parody. But the thing that I was actually, let's step back for people who don't know, who have not had a chance.
Everybody knows. I can't believe you've never seen this movie.
For people who have not had the chance to watch Bring It On since it came out 17 years ago, this is about competitive cheerleading and cheerleaders from kind of the rich, Tony, white area of Southern California, San Diego, and a school in Compton, African-American school. But it mainly focuses on Kristen Dunst and her being captain of the cheerleading squad for the Torrance. Is it Torrance?
Yeah. Okay. No, her name is Torrance.
That's the thing. Is her name is Torrance.
The El Toro.
That's right. It's the El Toro Bulls, and her name is Torrance, and it's just very it's very character naming 101 weird mistakes. It's like, is she the school, or is it a nickname, or what the hell? Anyway, halfway through, or most of the way through this movie, it felt like watching The Karate Kid told from the perspective of the mean Cobra Kai dojo.
I think you're wrong, but I think that's a very funny take.
They're stealing from the poor kids. They're being jerks. They're catty. They're cruel. But when they realize that they didn't know that they were stealing from the other school, when they realize it, they try to make it right. No. Here's the thing. When they realize it, that's the thing, is Elijah Dooku figures out, hey, you guys are stealing all these from the school that I went to.
Dooku. The way you say it, it's not Count Dooku.
No, whatever. Anyway, she goes up to Kristen Dunst. She says, "Oh, you're gonna take a look at this. I'm gonna take you to Compton and show you where you're stealing this from." So they go to Compton. Kirsten Dunst finds out that they're stealing all this stuff. She goes back to her squad and says, "Hey, we need a new routine." Everybody says no, including Elijah Dooku. And so it's just kind of like, we know we're doing something wrong, but we're still going to do it. We're still going to go forward. And that's the point where it's like, no, they didn't mend their ways. First, they tried to bury their head in the sand and steal from these kids. Then they just they do this cheating thing where they buy some routine off some other guy. So they're still not doing the right thing. Then they finally, do their job and come up with a new routine after watching a bunch of musicals, which is fine, which is good. It's cool. It's kind of interesting.
You didn't think it was fun?
Not really. It was a little too, well, that's the thing
I really like Bring It On. I think it's really fun. And it's one of those movies that when I see it's on, I'm like, oh, Bring It On's on. And I watch that.
See, I think there are movies like this for me. Everybody has a movie like this. And not to be too judgmental on what you like and everything, but everybody has a movie that is maybe just not for everybody, but it somehow hits you or me. Really, it just happens to strike a chord with you, and it's kind of a mediocre movie, but for some reason you love.
I don't know. I saw it in the theater, and I thought it was way better than it had any right to be, and I really enjoy it.
Maybe, and I'll agree with you. So I'm not. I don't mean to be like, oh, Sonia, how could you like this movie? No, people like movies. There's a movie that I think got in the 40s or the 30s, Fire in the Sky. It's like a UFO movie that most people don't like and really got kind of pounded by the critics. But for some reason, I love that movie. I really liked it. It really just I like that movie, but it's definitely not for everybody. It's not like one of these good movies where everybody. So
I think Bring It On got reasonably good reviews.
In the 60s, actually, I think it was like 60, which is fine.
Really?
I think so. I just checked. It could be either 60 or 66, but it doesn't really matter. It was fine. The other thing I was thinking is halfway through I watched it, I'm thinking I am really not sympathizing with any of these El Toro cheerleaders. And I was
you are a full-grown man.
That's right.
So
that's true. And I was a lot more interested in the Compton kids, and I would have loved to see this movie with exactly the same character beats, exactly the same structure from their point of view. Like, they're scrappy, they have this history of this other school coming to take their stuff, and then this new girl comes from the other school professing not to know about any of this stuff and trying to do nice, trying to bring them a check so they can go to nationals. And
I think that's the more predictable story, what you're describing, though. I think the story of the people of the El Toro bulls or whatever, discovering they've made a mistake and then like creating their own routine and then being super happy to win second place.
Yeah. No, that is definitely good. Yeah.
A different story. The other story you're describing is like every other.
Well, here's the thing. It is a little bit like every other, but by keeping it the same is essentially this would be kind of like Karate Kid, and then Daniel finds out, oh, the leader of the Cobra Kai is not really a jerk. He's kind of in this tough spot. And then Daniel and what's his name kind of become friends. So it would be literally this thing, Gabrielle's crew would win nationals, but she would realize as she's going through it that, oh, this other school that I thought were big mean villains are not really big mean villains, and she kind of learned something along the way. So it would be this kind of, it would not be kind of like a Rocky movie or the original version of the Karate Kid where they just fight and the good guys win. It would be the good guys win, but she also realizes that she was having some stereotypes and some prejudice against assuming that, the Kristen Dunst character was just a thief kind of thing.
Let me just say, you're not gonna like Pitch Perfect.
Well, we'll see. We will see. Because I watched the preview to Pitch Perfect, and it's exactly the same. It seems from the preview, they're both from Universal also. It seems to be exactly the same movie, which is, instead of singing, it's, instead of being a cheerleader, it's a cappella singing, which, you're correct, I have a particular hatred for a cappella style singing.
I look forward to your review.
So, yeah, we will see. So, good, I appreciate it. It's always good. This is why I'm not complaining. It's always good to kind of try to break out of your normal routines of what you watch and what
Did
you
your
like to watch.
wife or children come into the room and they're like, WTF?
Yes.
What
Oh, you're going to love
watching?
this. My wife did come into the room. She did say WTF, and she seemed to be having a very Gilmore Girls reaction to it, which I thought was hilarious.
Oh, well, I really like it. I'm surprised she doesn't like it too.
She was she is not a fan of movies about white girl problems. So, not to be all identity politics about it, but coming in second nationally for cheerleading is not a significant problem.
No, it isn't.
So
I watched Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Starring James Franco.
Yes, I didn't know that James Franco was going to lead to the end of the world, but I should have suspected that.
We all should have seen it coming.
I'm not going to go on and on like you did. I liked it. I thought it was fine. We're supposed to root for the apes, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, we're terrible. We're all garbage. Like, I'm rooting for the apes. Like,
yeah.
I'm totally fine with where it's going. I'm like, I don't know what's happening in the other movies. Like, maybe my allegiance will change and I'll be like, hey, like, people aren't so bad. No, we're terrible. Like, I'm rooting for the apes. So I am going to watch the next one. So we'll see. I did have some, like, we discussed it a little bit before we started recording about, there is this storyline about like a virus that is spreading.
Right.
And there really isn't any kind of payoff until the credits.
Yeah.
Which I'm not necessarily a fan of. I feel like if it's important to the story, it should be in the movie and not play out during the credits. Mm-hmm. But I did like how it was played out in the credits. So I have a kind of mixed feelings there.
Yeah.
I do want to say the performances, it's Andy Serkis doing Caesar.
Yes.
The main ape.
Yeah.
It is a really good performance.
Yes. Oh, I am
a really, really good performance. And I have a hard time with movies with animals because, and children too, mm-hmm. I should say. Oh, and kids. Because they kind of look to us to like protect them and do the right thing. And I feel like so often in movies we don't. Right. And it's hard to watch. I don't like that. And there's a lot of that in this movie. But I made it through.
Well, good. I feel
like it's a solid movie. Like,
yes. Yeah.
I don't feel the need to see it again, but I will definitely watch the next one.
Yeah.
Is the next one better?
Well, yes. Most people, I like them both. I like them quite a bit, but most people, that was the thing about this Rise of the Planet of the Apes is it kind of surprised everyone in 2011 when it came out, which is, wow, that's a really good reimagining, rebooting, whatever. That's much better than we were expecting, because that was just a couple years after Tim Burton's train wreck of a Planet of the Apes remake came out and was just one of the worst movies ever. And this was like, oh, wow, that was pretty good. Wow, I'm surprised. Okay. And then the next one comes out. I don't want to hype it up too much, but I think
But it's the best movie ever made.
I think the things that you like about this, I think, are even more there. Actually, of course, now that I say that, if you're somebody that's, well, you know what? Just watch it. So let me ask you.
I'm going to have some hard time with the animal stuff, I'm sure.
You might have a hard time with the animal stuff, but it's kind of like, well, it's all told from the ape's perspective. It's all, It's essentially, this is, I don't know if this is going to sound mean or anything. It's kind of like it reminds me a lot of Dances with Wolves in a weird way.
Okay.
And that you're seeing this different culture and getting introduced to it and sympathizing with it a lot, when traditional Hollywood movies would not have you sympathizing it that way. It would usually be the white man coming in, or like the original Planet of the Apes. White man crashes on the planet and, he's put upon by these awful apes.
I will try to watch it this week and I'll report back.
What I would suggest strongly is for you to rent it. And
not watch it on the FX Now app.
Not watch it on the FX Now app where they cut off the credits and all that. But also, watch it uncut in one sitting. Just watch it from beginning to end. I think you should be interesting. All right. So actually, let me ask you this then.
Yeah.
What would you give Rise of the Planet of the Apes?
Sake.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I'm doing. Just ballpark. Good movie. I guess a 7. I'm guessing a 7.
No, I'd say like a 5 or a 6.
What? Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. Well, just out of spite, I'm going to Bring It On a 4.
Yeah, you're a jerk.
No, it's not a 4. It's a definite 5.5.
We went really long with our little swap segment. Do we still want to talk about anything else?
We do, just a little bit, because it's
quickly.
Very interesting that you found this, and I just have one point that I want to make that I think is hilarious.
I just thought it was
talk about.
I just thought it was interesting that they found some photos that are suggesting that maybe Amelia Earhart survived her final flight.
Right.
And I think as people who are interested in stories, that's a really interesting ending that we did not see coming.
It is, and I'm actually believing it more and more, because I've actually, lost ships and lost planes and whatever is something that I'm always interested in. So I've been watching the progress of, over the last decade, there's been several teams that are looking for the Amelia Earhart and trying to figure stuff out. And this is a completely new break.
Somebody's found some photos with a Marshall Island.
Right, which were
and it looks like
controlled by the Japanese.
Yes, and it looks like there's a photo with her there.
And her and her navigator, and possibly the plane all together. Yeah, so it's very interesting. Actually, at the time we record this, the History Channel is going to be putting something out, I think, this Sunday, which when you're listening to this has already passed, so you might want to check it out. But here's what I think is very funny and interesting. So for years, there have been rumors that Amelia Earhart was captured by the Japanese and taken to Saipan or taken somewhere and died in prison as World War II raged on. What's funny is the natives of the Marshall Islands have been saying since the 40s, we saw her here. She was captured. The Japanese brought her here. This specific Japanese ship grabbed the plane, and they all took off with her. We never saw her again. And then there are reports that she went to Saipan. In the 1800s, there was a expedition to the Arctic to try to find the Northwest Passage. One of the ships that disappeared. It's the Franklin expedition, I think it was. One of the ships, the HMS Terror, was recently just found, and it was like, oh my God, the ship has been discovered after 150 years under the Arctic water. Blah 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 blah. What's funny about that is, just like the natives in the Marshall Islands, the natives in this area of Canada have been reporting since the ship went down, it's in this bay. And Canadian officials,
How
British
come no
officials,
one told us?
No, that's the thing. Is they've been telling them the whole time.
How come no one told us?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like,
they're like,
hey, dummies,
we've been saying this the whole time.
We've been telling you this the whole time, and you finally went down with your super slick 21st century submarine, and
I said,
like I've been telling you.
We're the worst. This is why the apes deserve to win.
That's the thing. So it's kind of like
we're such dicks. Come on.
I'm not gonna exactly call it racism, but it's kind of like, look, the natives knew the whole time, and they've been trying to tell us the whole time. So so because of that, because of this HMS Terror story, it would not surprise me at all if this was actually the fate of Amelia Earhart, if it really was confirmed, if this was the thing that confirmed her fate, and we could have known the whole time, but we just weren't listening. So yeah. I thought that was hilarious.
That sounds about right.
So anyway, Sonia Mansfield, is there anything else you would like to say before we finish tonight's show?
I'll just say I hope the apes win, and goodbye.
Bye!
The Dorking Out Show is on Twitter at Dorking Out Show, where you can find Chris at Jet Jurgens and Sonia at The Sonia Show. You can read about Sonia's random adventures at thesoniashow.com and track the slow and creeping progress of Chris's novel and his other hijinks at jetjurgens.com. You can find out more about The Dorking Out Show at dorkingoutshow.com. While you're over there, you can support us by giving us a review on iTunes. We have a handy-dandy iTunes link to whisk you right back to 2007, where you can leave your review and 5-star rating in iTunes. We'd do it for your podcast. Want to dork out even more? Well, you can sign up for our newsletter, where you'll get all the headlines we use as fuel for the show. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening.